You look at her, and you see the present moment. You see the smile, the charm, the way she looks in that dress. You see a blank slate, ready for a new story. But nature does not believe in blank slates. Nature believes in accumulation. Every experience, every connection, and every intimacy leaves a residue. It leaves a footprint on the nervous system, a groove in the psychology, and a pattern in the behavior. We live in a world that tells you the past doesn't matter. They tell you that a woman's history is just a number, a statistic that has no bearing on her future loyalty or her ability to love you. But watch closely. The past is not a ghost. It is the architect of the present. The psychological reality is that intimacy is not just a physical act. It is a chemical binding. It is an exchange of data, emotion, and hormones. When a woman has shared that level of intimacy with a high volume of men, it fundamentally alters the way she views connection, the way she views men, and the way she views herself. She isn't evil. She isn't broken. But she is conditioned. And if you are looking for a woman to build a legacy with, you need to understand the difference between a woman who has protected her ability to bond and a woman who has eroded it through repetition. Here are the 5 signs that a woman has a history she isn't telling you, not because you judged her, but because you need to see the reality behind the mask. Sign 1. The failure to pair bond. The Teflon heart. There is a biological mechanism called pair bonding. It is triggered by oxytocin, the bonding hormone released during intimacy. In a woman with a lower history, this mechanism is like superglue. When she connects, she sticks, she attaches. But watch the woman who has normalized high turnover. She has become resistant to the glue. She moves from relationship to relationship with terrifying efficiency. She breaks up with a man on Tuesday and is dating a new prospect on Friday. She doesn't grieve. She doesn't process. She simply replaces. This isn't resilience. This is numbness. When you hold a piece of tape and stick it to a wall, it holds tight. Rip it off and stick it to another wall. It holds a little less. Do that 50 times, and the tape doesn't stick to anything. It just slides off. A client once told me about a woman he was crazy about. They had a passionate, intense 3-month relationship. Then they had a minor argument, and she ended it. He was devastated. He spent weeks trying to fix it. 2 days after the breakup, he saw her on social media with a new guy, looking just as happy, just as in love as she had been with him. He thought she was faking it. She wasn't. She simply felt nothing. She had trained her nervous system to view men as interchangeable utility providers. The emotional shift comes when you realize that her lack of drama when leaving you isn't maturity, it's apathy. And the masculine reframe is this: never build a castle on a foundation that shifts with the wind. If she cannot attach, she cannot be loyal. Sign 2. The cool girl chameleon. Masculine mimicry. You meet her and you think, wow, she gets it. She likes the same movies, drinks the same scotch, laughs at the dark jokes, and understands the locker room talk. She doesn't get offended. She acts like one of the guys. It feels refreshing. But pause and ask yourself, where did she learn this? A woman acts like a man when she has spent a lifetime adapting to the transient presence of many men. She has learned to mirror the behaviors of her lovers to survive in their world for the short time she is there. She has absorbed the mannerisms, the slang, and the attitudes of the 20 or 30 men who came before you. She is a chameleon. She isn't displaying her own personality. She is displaying a collage of her exes. This woman often prides herself on not being like other girls. She mocks female drama. She claims she prefers male company. It signals that she has disconnected from her own feminine polarity because she has been forced to operate in a masculine frame to navigate the dating market. She knows exactly what to say to disarm you because she has said it to 10 men just like you. She knows exactly when to hand you a beer and when to leave you alone. It feels like compatibility, but it is actually a rehearsed script. The emotional shift is realizing that you aren't dating a unique individual. You are dating a composite of every man who left an imprint on her. and the masculine reframe is sharp. A man wants a compliment, not a copy. If she acts like a bro, treat her like a bro, do not marry her. Sign 3. The performance of intimacy. Technical proficiency versus connection. There is a distinct difference between a woman who is making love and a woman who is performing a service. The woman with a high history is often technically excellent. She knows the moves. She knows the angles. She knows exactly what noise to make to stroke your ego. There is no awkwardness, no fumbling, no shyness. It is polished, it is cinematic, and it is completely hollow. Watch her eyes. Is she with you? Or is she watching herself be with you? When a woman has slept with many men, sex ceases to be a vulnerable act of bonding and becomes a performance skill. She dissociates. She treats her body like an instrument she is playing to get a reaction out of you. She isn't connecting with your soul. She is managing your pleasure to secure your resources or validation. A man once told me, "It was the best sex of my life, but I felt lonely immediately after." That is the gut instinct screaming the truth. You felt lonely because you were alone in the room. She wasn't there. She was executing a routine she perfected on men you will never meet. In contrast, a woman with a lower history might be awkward. She might be shy. She might not know every trick, but her enthusiasm is real. Her connection is focused on you, not the act. The emotional shift hits when you realize that her lack of inhibition is actually a lack of value for her own intimacy. She gives it away easily because she no longer views it as sacred. And the masculine reframe is this: do not mistake skill for passion. A porn star has skill. A wife has devotion. Know the difference. Sign 4. The network of just friends, orbiters and exes. He's just an old friend. We dated for a month years ago. It means nothing. If you hear these phrases often, you are dealing with a woman who collects men. A woman with a high body count rarely cuts ties cleanly. She keeps a roster. Because she has been conditioned to view male attention as a resource that must be hoarded, she keeps the door cracked open. She replies to the DMs. She grabs coffee with the ex to catch up. She tells you you're insecure if you worry about it. But here is the psychological truth. A woman who is truly ready to bond with one man clears the deck. She closes the other doors. She understands that respect for her partner means eliminating threats to the relationship. The woman with a history keeps the threats alive because she relies on their validation to regulate her self-esteem. She has fractured her attention across so many men that she cannot focus it entirely on one. She needs the diversification. If you leave, she has 3 backups ready to step in. This is not friendship, it is emotional insurance. A client was dating a woman who insisted on going to dinner with an old college buddy. The client found out later that buddy was a guy she slept with for 2 years. When he confronted her, she said, "That was in the past. We're mature now." No, she wasn't mature. She was addicted to the attention of multiple men. The emotional shift is realizing that you are not her priority. You are just the current head of the rotation. And the masculine reframe is absolute. A woman with 1,000 male friends has no loyalty to one. Demand exclusivity of attention, not just bodies. Sign 5. Deep-seated cynicism. Innocence is the belief that love works. Cynicism is the scar tissue that forms when it doesn't. Watch how she talks about relationships, marriage, and men in general. Does she say things like, "Marriage is just a piece of paper"? This cynicism is not wisdom. It is the accumulated trauma of too many endings. Every time a woman gives her body to a man and the relationship fails, a piece of her idealism dies. She stops believing in the fairy tale. She stops believing that a man can be loyal or that she is worthy of being kept. She enters your relationship with one foot out the door because she assumes you will leave eventually because everyone else did. This woman is exhausting to love. You try to be romantic, and she analyzes it. You try to promise forever, and she laughs. You are fighting against the ghosts of 20 men who lied to her. You are paying the debt for crimes you didn't commit. She will tell you she is realistic. But realism without hope is just despair disguised as logic. A client told me. I tried to propose to her, and she asked if we should sign a prenup before I even finished the sentence. That is the sound of a heart that has turned to stone. She wasn't protecting her assets. She was protecting herself from the inevitable failure she had been conditioned to expect. The emotional shift comes when you realize that you cannot love the cynicism out of her. It is a structural part of her worldview now, and the masculine reframe is painful but necessary. You cannot save a woman who has already decided that you will fail. Look for the woman who still believes, not the one who is just waiting for the end, the awakening. You read this, and perhaps you feel angry, perhaps you feel defensive. You think, the past is the past. You want to be the modern man who doesn't judge. But judgment is a survival mechanism. You are judging not to be cruel, but to determine where to invest your life. You are vetting the mother of your children. You are vetting the keeper of your peace. The woman with a high history is not a villain. She is often a victim of a culture that told her sexual liberation was free. They lied to her. They told her she could act like a man and still be treated like a lady. They told her she could give herself away 100 times and still be whole. But biology keeps the score. When you see these signs, the failure to bond, the masculine mimicking, the performance, the orbiters, the cynicism, you are seeing the receipt for that lie. The emotional shift is when you stop trying to be the savior who can fix her damage and start being the architect who chooses the right materials for his foundation. You cannot build a skyscraper on a swamp. You need solid ground. The masculine reframe is the final truth. A man's value is established by his future. A woman's value is preserved in her past. It is unfair. It is harsh. But it is reality. Stop apologizing for having standards. Stop apologizing for wanting a woman who can actually bond with you. Stop apologizing for seeing the truth. The mask is off. Choose wisely.